Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Batman knows how to draw a crowd, so. But we are here. I'll make a few brief remarks, and then I'll have the experts on Bill Finger speak. But we are here to mark the unveiling of Bill Finger Way on 192nd Street between the Grand Concourse and Valentine Avenue. And even though most might not know the name of Bill Finger, no one here in the Bronx or elsewhere in the United States is a stranger to his legacy. Batman, for which he was one of the co-creators, is such an iconic figure that he's come to be embedded in our common language, in our common imagination as Americans. If you were to approach 1,000 Americans at random and invoke the name of Batman, not a single one would ask, who is Batman? Because part of what it means to be embedded in American culture is to know who Batman is to know that he's one of the heroes that we celebrate in common in the American imagination. And so it's only appropriate that we come together to celebrate the unrecognized legacy of Bill Finger, who not only lived in the Bronx, not only graduated from DeWitt Clinton High School, but also conceived of Batman while he was in Poe Park. And so there's something symbolic about creating a street right next to a park that bears the names of one of America's greatest poets. Right? There's something symbolic about situating that street between the Grand Concourse and Valentine Avenue, because we're not only here to celebrate Bill Finger, we're here to celebrate what he symbolizes, the creative grandeur, the creative love that has long been the legacy of the Bronx, a legacy that's too often overlooked in favor of stereotype and caricature. And so this unveiling is about 3 Bs. It's about Bill Finger, Batman, and it's about the Bronx. And Bill Finger, like the Bronx itself, is finally getting the recognition that he deserves. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mark Noble, who might be the leading expert on Bill Finger.
There's a big market for that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Richie. As you heard, my name is Mark Tyler Nobleman. I am the author of Bill the Boy Wonder, the secret co-creator of Batman, the 2012 biography of writer Bill Finger, and I appear in this year's Batman movie. No, not Justice League. Not the Lego Batman movie, and also not the direct-to-video Batman vs. Two-Face. I was in Hulu's documentary Batman and Bill, along with some of the folks right behind me. For years, oh, thank you. That's very nice of you. For years, I would say Batman's biggest secret is not Bruce Wayne. Not anymore. Bill Finger wrote the first Batman story in 1939, and hundreds more over the next 25 years, including his heartbreaking and groundbreaking origin. He also designed the costume. But his name never appeared in the credit line even once in his lifetime. Meanwhile, cartoonist Bob Kane drew only a fraction of the stories, and for only the first few years, and did not write a single Batman story in his life. But from the start, he was the sole person credited. Holy fake news, Batman. As Richie said, we were thinking along the same lines. This street renaming is a love letter to actually I'm going to give it 4 Bs. Bill, Batman, the Big Apple,
Yes.
and of course the Bronx.
The Boogie Down Bronx.
That's right. Okay, I didn't know that. The Boogie Down Bronx. You can get away with that. I probably can't. So Bill wasn't born in the Bronx, but Batman was. According to my research, it happened on Kelly Street. Then Bill built the Batworld from all over the borough. In 1940 and 41, Bill lived at 2754 Grand Concourse. Which direction is that? I don't even know. That way. In that period, he wrote the first stories with Robin, the Joker, Catwoman, and he named the Batmobile in Gotham City. In 1941 and 42, he lived at 50 East 196th Street, during which time he wrote the first appearances of the Scarecrow and the Penguin, and he introduced what he would later name the Batcave. Right here in Poe Park, he and Bob would sit on benches and brainstorm Batman adventures. But when Bill passed away in 1974 at age 59, many, if not most, Batmanians had never heard his name. He had no mainstream obituary, no funeral, no gravestone, no kidding. When I began my book in 2006, I was led to believe he also had no heir. His son Fred was his only child and died in 1992, leaving no offspring known to comics historians. The biggest moment of my research was when I discovered that that was not true. Fred did have a child, a daughter, which meant Bill had a granddaughter. I found Athena Finger, then she found the courage to fight, along with her sister Alethea, who's also here, for her family's birthright. In 2015, after 76 years of inaccuracy, DC Comics added Bill's name to Batman. Justice has no expiration date. One of the most instrumental people in my research was Bill's longtime writing partner, Charles Sinclair. Charles gave of his time many times to articulately tell me about his friend Bill. Charles is not here today. Yesterday, I learned that on November 15th, at age 93, Charles passed away. Let's take a moment to honor Bill's old friend and my new friend, Charles. I'd like to give him a round of applause. Thank you all for joining this celebration. Fingerheads have come from as far as Utah. We're Scout. From Utah. Anyone from farther than Utah? Okay, then you take the cake. That's quite an honor for Bill. Special thanks, of course, to Athena and her son Benjamin, Bill's great-grandson, for coming in from Florida. We are all indebted to New York Council member Richie Torres and his fantastic staff, the 3 Rs that I've been working with, Ron, Raphael, and Raymond, for spearheading this tribute to two of the Bronx's most distinguished sons, the Dark Knight and the mind behind him. So a round of applause for these fine folks. Batman is more than one of the world's most successful superheroes. He is one of the most iconic fictional characters of any kind of all time. That means that Bill Finger is one of the most influential creators of all time. He died too soon to see that family and fans have reclaimed his legacy. So the unveiling of Bill Finger Way is bittersweet. Bill Finger made history. Team Finger corrected history. And now the Bronx takes lead in honoring that history by installing this sign, the first memorial to a superhero creator in New York, the superhero capital of the world. Next step is a statue. Thank you very much.
Aim high, aim high.
Right.
I did not realize we have representation from Utah, so welcome to the Bronx. So Batman is not the only legacy that Bill Finger has left with us. We are joined by his granddaughter, Athena Finger. So.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today to celebrate Batman and Bill, the Bronx, and everything that comes with that. I would like to thank the councilman, Richie Torres, the Bronx, New York City, and of course, Mark Nobleman for making all of this history-changing event happening. This is so exciting. We're going to reveal very soon. And I really appreciate that the city does recognize the contributions that Bill has made to not just the city, but to the world's culture. And I can't wait to see the sign.
And then Bill's stepson, Steve Simmons.
Thank you, Councilman. I first met Bill Finger in the 1950s when he married my mom, Lynn Simmons, then called Edith. For the next 15 years, Bill was my stepfather and gave me advice on everything from how to tie a tie to how to treat girls. You better treat them nice, boys. and he told me about his work as a comic book writer. He told me about co-creating Batman, giving the character a cape, a cowl on his head, a bat cave, a Batmobile, and a city named Gotham. He was proud of his work on Batman and other comic book characters like Superman. I, as a kid, was thrilled to hear about it, and we all sat around the TV watching when one of Bill's TV scripts would air on the TV series 77 Sunset Strip. He also wrote for television. And I remember so well that big smile, that big smile Bill had that would light up his face when we would sit and watch the credits on TV for one of those programs. But despite this, Bill was a self-effacing man and never pushed himself to get recognition for what he did and to move up the ladder for greater glory and greater compensation. We urged him to, but he was reluctant, and at the end of his life, he tragically died a poor man without real recognition. So it is a wonderful thing that today the street is named in his honor. He would so appreciate it, and I can see his big smile now as he looks down upon this gathering with pride. And I thank you, Councilman, and thank the City of New York, and thank you, Mark Tyler Nobleman, for your dogged pursuit of getting Bill recognition and for today's honor. My mom, who is 95, could not be here this morning, but she wanted me to read a brief, very brief note from her. So here it is. I first met Bill Finger when invited to dinner at the home of friends of mine. He called me 2 weeks later for a date. I said yes. And we were together for 15 wonderful years. Bill was one of the greatest people I ever met. He did things for me always, and he was very kind to his friends and neighbors. He was very attentive to my 3 children, and they enjoyed his company a lot. With his presence, we were a happy, lively family. He went to the ballet with me and really enjoyed it, almost as much as I did. We visited the Hamptons, where my aunt was staying, and visited her. Bill didn't swim, but he loved going to the beach. Bill loved movies and the theater. We liked foreign movies, mysteries, and comedies. We generally had wonderful times together, enjoying each other's company, visiting new places and revisiting old ones. All my friends liked him and were impressed that he did so much for Batman. Bill felt comics should never show violence or blood, only the higher levels of life. I wish he was alive now to see the honors he's receiving for his book on Batman. Lynn Simmons. Thank you.
The next speaker was the voice of Batman in the Batman the Animated Series, Kevin Conroy.
Hey. Whoa! Hi, it's such an honor to be here, and I have benefited so much from the character that Bill Finger helped create. And I'm a native New Yorker. My mother grew up on Gun Hill Road, not far from here. So I have strong Bronx roots. And Batman has strong New York roots and Bronx roots. And it's wonderful that we're recognizing this finally. You know, history makes lots of mistakes and crimes. And you can't change history, but we can try to make amends. And that's what we're doing today. We're trying to make an amends to Bill Finger. I also had the privilege of working with Arthur Miller, another wonderful New Yorker, in his last play. And he wrote in Death of a Salesman about Willie Loman. I'm not saying he's a great man. Willie Loman never made a lot of money. His name was never in the papers. He wasn't the finest character, but he was a human being, and attention must be paid. He's not to be kicked into some grave like an old dog. Attention must be finally paid to such a man. And that's what we're doing today. So God bless you all.
And we have our resident historian from the Bronx County Historical Society, Angel Hernandez.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, everyone, for having us here. The Bronx County Historical Society has been running the Edgar Allan Poe Cottage since 1975. And just a quick history about it. The great American poet moved to this part of New York City in 1846 with his young wife Virginia and his mother-in-law, Mrs. Clem. And they moved out here to save Virginia from dying of tuberculosis. Edgar Allan Poe, it's ironic because there's some similarities with Poe and Bill. They both died very poor. They had brilliant minds, and they were only remembered afterwards. So although Poe died very poor, he wrote some of his best stuff here. He wrote The Cask of Amontillado here, which is one of the most famous short stories ever written in the world. It's been translated in over 112 languages. He wrote The Bells here. He wrote Annabel Lee. So there's a lot of inspiration I've learned about Poe. You have all these genres, horror movies, the gothic culture. We get a lot of goth kids coming to the house to ask for tours. I even joke about hip hop. You know, hip hop started in the Bronx too. Poe was a hip hop artist. He was a poet. And this is how everything was inspired. So when I started with the society, I was fairly new when I got a phone call from Mark here. And he said, you know about Batman, right? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's, one of my favorite comic book characters. He goes, well, Bob Kane, went to Clinton High School. And I'm like, yeah, so did Stan Lee, who created Spider-Man. And he said, yeah, but there was someone else from the Bronx that co-created Batman. His name was Bill Finger. And we had this great conversation, and I had no idea about this gentleman. In fact, Mark made me put Bill Finger's name on our website. All right, and it's probably one of the very first times, I don't know if this is true, but it's been published, and this was back in 2009. So I pondered about it, and at that time, we wasn't sure if this was the actual place where Batman was conceived. But I thought, what other place in the world can two gentlemen from the Bronx, school kids, gain such an inspiration, a dark, gloom, macabre inspiration, than being at Edgar Allan Poe's cottage, at Poe Park? So, as a Bronx chauvinist, I'm always bragging about the Bronx. We got Poe, we got the New York Yankees. And I am so proud to say that we have Bill Finger, too, one of the creators of Batman. And it's so honored to be here amongst everyone here celebrating this dedication. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you for having me here. And let's enjoy the legacies, just like we've done with many years with Edgar Allan Poe. Thank you very much.
So I think Bill got a mention on the website of the Bronx Historical Society, a street renaming, a statute. We see where this is heading. So, and we're saving the best for last, the students' PS46, and we're joined by Brad Medina. So Brad, you want to? Yeah, of course, I'll start.
As we all know, the creator of Batman, Bill Finger, deserves to be honored. I think children should feel honored to learn about his artwork as well. Children should follow their dreams and don't let anything stop them. Each one of us who participated in this project loves to draw. We also love superheroes. This project was exciting for us because we live right here in this community. We attend the Edgar Allan Poe Literacy School, and this event is taking place in the Edgar Allan Poe Park, where Bill Fingers got his inspiration from. I hope one day our superhero will be chosen as a comic series. Everyone should know their true potential in life. We think all the other children out there should show their creativity. We were all thrilled to participate in this project, and we thank you for this opportunity.
And now we are ready to proceed with the unveiling of the street name. So I will ask Athena and Stephen to lead us on the unveiling. And hopefully this
one goes better than the one from me? Okay.
Yeah, last time the string has broken on us.
Oh, dear. If anyone has a batarang, that'd be great.
I left it in the bat cave.
Oh, okay.
Get over to the side as far as you can, yeah?
We actually have a gift for the family of Billfinger. It's an actual sign. So if you want to.
Turn around, guys, and move back a little bit.
Congratulations.
Do you still want the kids to stand in front of the altar?
Yeah, if you want.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Wait.
This is the coolest street renaming.